Hey folks, and welcome to another video from A Plain Truth 2. Well, again, we're seeing more and more evidence that Western medicine is failing greatly by design. They treat the disease, never preventative medicine. 137 million Americans suffered medical, financial hardship in the past year. The healthcare system in the United States is deeply broken. Americans had to borrow a whopping $88 billion last year to cover medical costs. This is happening even though more than 90% of all Americans have some form of, quote, health coverage. And also note, Western medicine, United States, ranks last, 38 out of 38 countries in quality of care, but it tied with Switzerland, number one in cost of care because it's for profit. The corporations that run Big Pharma have no interest in your well-being. Their financial and fiduciary responsibilities in a corporation is responsible to enhance shareholder value, period. They do not care about you or us or your children. Approximately 137.1 million adults, now remember we have like 215 million people in the United States, so that's like half, more than half, reported medical financial hardships in the past year. Hardships more common for material, psychological, and behavioral domains in adults aged 18 to 64 years old. Kind of inclusive. Just consider 9-year-old Oakley Yoder. He was on a hike in the woods. He got bit by a snake, went to the hospital, and what was his bill? $142,000, $142,938, including $68,000 for vials of anti-venom. This is profit. This is how they make their money. $3.7 trillion was spent on healthcare in 2018. If the healthcare system was a country, it'd be the fifth largest GDP, gross domestic product, in the entire earth. 76% of Americans believe they pay too much on the quality of care. This says it ranks 31st out of 36 countries, close enough for horseshoes. Pharmaceutical companies spend approximately $30 billion a year to market their drugs. Why is there a war on drugs in a drugstore on every corner, folks? Why do they don't want us to drink and drive, but they put beer and wine in every gas station? The median charge for visiting an emergency room in the United States is well over $1,000. Well, we've got some answers, and answers is what we're about here, solutions to problems. All right, so what I wanted to bring your attention to is this Stanford article I just read the other day. Biomarker for chronic fatigue syndrome identified. They devised a blood test that accurately identified people with chronic fatigue syndrome. Now, as I've been talking about this biomagnetic healing, I am publishing my results as I've gone through like 8 treatments now using universal energy healing or biomagnetic healing. This is done remotely. It can be done in person, but we've been doing it, treating people, over 40 people we've been treating remotely, and we're having very, very good results, as I'll relate to you in a little bit. But I've been diagnosed twice with chronic fatigue syndrome. You see right here, this is the diagnosis. This is the charts that come up when the healer does a treatment. Okay, so you've seen I've had 2 treatments with chronic fatigue syndrome. This has been about a week apart that this come about. After it's been cleared, I don't need naps anymore. I have much more energy and feeling much, much better. So what is myalgic encephalomyelitis? Chronic fatigue syndrome is a disabling and complex illness. People not able to function the way they did before coming ill. People's ability to do daily tasks, taking a shower, preparing a meal, makes it hard to keep a job, focus, school, can last for years and sometimes leads to serious disabilities. 1 in 4 patients in bed are housebound for long periods of time due to chronic fatigue syndrome, most common between 40 and 60 years old. An estimated 836,000 to 2.5 million Americans suffer from chronic fatigue syndrome. 90% of people have not been diagnosed. Where's the opportunity for Big Pharma? Cost the economy between 17 to 24 billion annually in medical costs and lost income. Reasons for not being diagnosed, including limited access to health care and lack of education about chronic fatigue syndrome. Most medical schools in the United States do not have chronic fatigue syndrome as part of their physician training. The illness is often misunderstood and might not be taken seriously by health providers. More education for doctors and nurses is urgently needed so they're prepared to provide timely diagnosis and appropriate care. Never prevent the disease, folks. Only treat them after they get sick. Western medicine. All right, so back to the Stanford study. So this was done on April 29th, just recently, okay? This is where it gets really, really, really good. All right. So too often we see the disease characterized as imaginary. It's all in your head. You're making this stuff up, providing the proof. The diagnosis of chronic fatigue syndrome, when it actually is diagnosed, is based on symptoms: exhaustion, sensitivity to light, and unexplained pain, among other things. And it comes only after other disease possibilities have been eliminated. It is known to be designated, estimated in 2 million people in the United States. Okay, so the approach led to the development employs a nanoelectronic energy frequency vibration, which is a test that measures changes in minuscule amounts of energy as a proxy for the health of immune cells and blood plasma. The diagnostic technology contains thousands of electrodes that create an electrical current, as well as chambers to hold simplified blood samples composed of immune cells and plasma. Inside the chambers, the immune cells and plasma interfere with the current, electricity, energy, vibration, changing its flow from one end to another. The change in electrical activity is directly correlated with the health of the sample. What biomagnetic universal energy healing does is brings you back into a homeostasis state of alkaline and acidic balance. So no fungus, no bacteria, no viruses can live. The idea is to stress the samples from the body health in ill patients using salt, and then compare how each sample affects the flow of electrical current. What are they measuring? They're measuring your body's electrical currents to get it back in balance. This is exactly the way biomagnetic healing works. The ancient Chinese used it, lodestones. The ancient Egyptians used it. Nikola Tesla with his radionics machine was using biomagnetic healing and was shut down with the Flexner report in 1910, as I reported in one of my earlier videos. The AMA was not allowed to use biomagnetic healing because anybody could do it, and it works on everybody. So changes in the current indicate changes in the cell. The bigger the change in the current, the bigger the change on a cellular level. A big change is not a good thing. It's a sign that cells and plasma are flailing under stress and incapable of processing properly. All the blood samples from the patients created a clear spike in the test. This is what we do. We clear them. We clear your issues. The chronic fatigue system has been cleared. They're using the same terminology, folks. Stanford, medical research, PhDs, whereas those with healthy controls returned the data that was on a relatively even keel. Quote, "We don't know exactly why the cells and plasma are acting this way, or even what they're doing," Davis said. "But there is scientific evidence that the disease is not a fabrication of the patient's mind. We clearly see a difference in the way healthy and chronic fatigue syndrome immune cells process stress." So now they're explaining their findings to confirm to a larger cohort of participants, because we have 2 million people that need to be treated and we're giving them blood tests. Again, Stanford University of School Medicine. Guy's got his PhDs here and all this biochemistry and genetics, and he doesn't even know about biomagnetic healing. He hasn't studied Tesla. He hasn't studied the ancients. But we have, and we're doing it. All right, you want more proof here? How about Rudolf Steiner? So this is a lecture Rudolf Steiner gave back in January 8th, 1924. So we got a little time here. This is again around the time of Nikola Tesla as well. So what he said in his lecture, this is of course necessitates a few words about the nature forces of magnetic healing. The magnetic healing forces are forces which play essentially between the etheric body of one person and the etheric body of the other. We're talking about remote healing, folks. This is how it works. The following is also possible. Out of our own astral body, without the patient exerting his own will, we can influence our own etheric body in such a way that our own etheric body works upon the etheric body of the patient in the same way as in the previous case. The astral body worked. It is in this that the healing magnetism consists. The magnetic healer does this unconsciously. He influences his own etheric body with his astral body. Instinctively, he can then direct the forces he unfolds, that he passes them on to the patient. They strengthen to the patient's forces. So we use a host body to treat people remotely, where the healer will hold your ankles, your heels. That's why they call it healing, because one leg, your left leg, is connected to your heart, and that stays stable. And then when the magnets are placed or treatments are done around the 300 circadian nerve endings in our body, they read the issues that are occurring, and then the magnets are placed after the diagnosis to bring the body back to homeostasis, back to magnetic harmonic frequency balance, okay? So that's how it works, bringing us back into balance in our alkaline and acidic state. We're way too acidic, and that's why magnetism is the female magnet is a pulling, so it pulls you back into balance. All right, a positive energy is pushing, a negative energy is pulling. So it brings, most of the treatments are done with a pulling back into balance using the magnets of a negative magnet. So the kind of healing really cannot be made into a profession. This is what's critical. This is what must be said about it. The process of magnetic healing, when a person has the faculty for it, it's only unconditionally effective when it's carried out with genuine compassion for the patient, not for profit. A compassion that goes right down into one's organism. If you practice magnetic healing with a real love for the patient, then it cannot be done as a profession. If real love exists, it will always be able to lead to something good. Now, I've been dancing with the cost of how we can do this and afford it to people who can't afford it. I've been working with people that can't afford the initial deposit to help, but we need to pay the healer. He needs to be able to pay his rent and be able to continue doing this. So I ask people to make a contribution. It's an offering, folks. It's not a requirement. Wealth does not equal health, but health equals wealth. And this is the new paradigm we're doing. So you ask me how much it costs. It's like, well, what can you afford? And if you can afford something, then we're asking you to contribute. If you can't, then we'll still try and help you. But we'd like to help the healer who's doing this to get paid so he can afford to live himself. So that's why we do the process we're doing right now. And then once we get it more dialed in and we can get some more income generator or people that are getting healed can help contribute, we can start offering it to more people who can't afford this treatment protocol. But we want to bring this to everybody. All right, moving on. All right, so you want further proof, and thank you, Ingrid, for this information, critical information. All right, here's the NCBI, the National Institute of Health Government website. This is from the Grand Poobahs of Western medicine, okay? This is their study of biomagnetic pair therapy. That's what it's also called, biomagnetic pair therapy and typhoid fever, a pilot study, October 1st, 2017. Objective. The pilot study examined the laboratory responses of patients with laboratory documented typhoid fever who were treated with biomagnetic pair therapy, a specific application of pairs of magnets for various ailments that are infectious and otherwise. All right, now let me just give a warning. Don't try the magnetic therapy yourself. There's a process. If you do it wrong, you can cause more ill health. You can increase and get things worse if you don't do the treatment in the right way. It works both ways. It can heal and it can hurt. So that's why you need someone that's been trained, preferably by Dr. Isaac Goyas specifically, which our healer has been. All right. The study was an assessment of the patient's response with only BPT for salmonella typhoid infectious typhoid fever using standard conventional laboratory techniques. The research was conducted in an outpatient village clinic in Kenya. There were 52 participants who were evaluated for possible systemic illness, including typhoid fever, from an open-label study. Participants who felt sick and requested testing for possible typhoid fever were tested with the standard Widal test by a certified laboratory technician. Participants who tested positive, 13 of them, were then treated with BPT, biomagnetic pair therapy, a first aid approach only. This is the only thing they used, folks, nothing else. These participants then returned for follow-up laboratory and clinical evaluations after 2 days. Note, 2 days after treatment, they came back. Most of the participants, 10 of 13, retested as negative for typhoid fever, and all patients reported symptomatic clinical improvement. Ding, ding, ding. Conclusion. As a significant majority of participants demonstrated clearing of their typhoid fever after biomagnetic pair treatment. This technique should be studied further in larger trials for its efficacy in treating typhoid fever. National Institute of Health, the U.S. National Library of Medicine. You want more proof? All right, I'm getting the testimonies from our treatments. Like I said, we've been treating about 40 people now. These are some of the people reporting. Thank you. This is incredible. The treatment convinced me I am being treated to the month. 29 years ago, I got very ill in these specific areas treated Tuesday. Kidneys, subdiaphragm, pylorus, and cardia were greatly affected in multiple ways. This explains the leaky gut I've been dealing with since May 1990. Thank you, thank you, thank you for all your awesome work. Hi, Jamie. I'm feeling great. I'm actually blown away at the accuracy and the results of the treatment. Thank you very much. Wow is how I'll start this. Giving feedback of what happened during and after the first session. It was game-changing. Smiley face. First, I thought I'd be waiting a while to do the session. Was surprised when it happened so quickly. So grateful to you. During the evening of the first session, while working at the kitchen table, my husband and I were literally feeling the air around us changing. We later realized that it was recalibrating of my energy during the session, which also affected him. I suddenly had to go to sleep for about a half hour, and while laying down, I felt something lift me up and out of my heart area. My stomach felt much lighter, and all of a sudden, I felt energy running through me that felt more cleaner, and more whole, like clogged pipelines were opening. I'd felt sluggish and deeply exhausted for so many years now, so it was quite a welcome surprise. When I got up, I felt lighter, more positive, inspired, like I haven't in years. That alone was a gift, but then it just got better. The most profound thing I noticed, though, happening the next morning. After a full-on adrenal crash that lasted over 2 years, and over a year and a half of which I was in bed and couldn't get up, I still have not been able to wake up before 10:30 a.m. It's been a huge issue and has affected every area of my life. The morning after the first session, I woke up instantly with a clear head at 6:45 a.m. sharp. First time in years. I decided to rest a bit more, than bolted right up at 8:45 and stayed awake easily all day. That was a miracle to me. Clear-headed, upbeat, and creative. Phenomenal experience. The same thing has happened now every day, and my energy, my outlook on my body, and my life has already changed. I've been in an energy quote funk for so many decades now, and even though I've always eaten healthy, exercised, did all kinds of healing work, nothing helped. It felt like a big cork or covering lifted off the top of my head, and something was freed up that had been stagnant for decades. Another quick note is that when I fractured my neck in 1990 and tailbone in 1995, the connective tissue damage at the base of my skull created continual pain. The occiput and most of my vertebrae would, quote, pop out unexpectedly, and the pain was constant. While sitting at dinner 24 hours after the first session, my occiput and vertebrae adjusted in a way that no chiropractor could ever seem to do. Just like that, decades of pain left. Bam! Yay! I've long known that the AMA, American Medical Association-based practices have very little to do with actual healing and a lot to do with creating lifelong drug users for the pharma industry. The imbalances of most of the subtle systems can be detrimentally influenced on our perspectives of optimal health, and once healed, everything changes. Can hardly wait for the rest. Already such a powerful impact. Thank you. No, thank you. And for all you're contributing to taking this leap of faith to try and help and heal. And we're going to continue to do this. So if anybody has would like any more information on this healing protocol, again, it's not based on money, but if you can contribute, we're asking you to contribute to the healing. You can send an email to me at jwlpeace@gmail.com. This is a picture of an actual nerve ending. Look at all the little cell structures. And this is where it starts at the base pair of our DNA. And the DNA regenerates from the 2 female pairs into 4. And then once it gets at the base level of our DNA, which has 125 billion miles of DNA strands in each person, it regenerates and then replicates. And once it replicates, it makes an exact copy of our DNA, so it's used for healing. So it has a copy of itself, of our own DNA, and uses that. This is how the healing process works. And just to close, this is the cellular model. This is why it works. It works at the cellular model because we're all energy, frequency, and vibration. And the nucleus of the cell works like a radio. It's a sender and a receiver. This is a healthy cell here, folks. This is what we regenerate. This is what we replicate. It replicates and regenerates at this level. This is a disease cell, is a radiation war between the toxin or organism and the cell's own vibration. The one who dominates determines the cell's fate. So this is what it does. It goes from this status into homeostasis, and this is a well-balanced, well-healed, where, again, it's a balanced alkaline and acidic state. Okay? So email me if you want to get more information on this. Once you fill out the forms, then we'll do a phone consultation about treatments, and we'll start the process. And again, we're treating a lot of people, so if you can be patient on the responses, I'm trying to get back to as many people as I can as quickly as possible. But we're finding more and more results of these biomagnetic treatments working and working effectively on people all over the country, all over the world. It's very exciting stuff. It's connecting to the ancients. It's connecting to Tesla technology, Rudolf Steiner, some great prophets. It's connecting to even Jesus Christ himself, who used the heels of the apostles before he was sacrificed to treat them biomagnetically. Truth. That's why he washed the feet before he was sacrificed. All right, plain truth out. Hope this helps. Here's towards well-healed. We'll catch you next video. Peace and love one another. Always.